Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So my name's John. I post music content every week, tutorials, demos, vlogs, stuff like that. So if you guys are into that, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, because it's going to help me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. So if you guys were following my last couple of weeks, I've been talking about music theory, and I made a music theory playlist. So if you guys haven't checked out my previous videos, you probably should first before getting into today's lesson, because they are kind of stacked on top of each other. Today I'm going to be talking about diatonic chords in a major key signature. The first thing is, I understood how to play chords and stuff like that, but I didn't really understand why I was playing the chords that I was and how they even interacted with each other. So the diatonic chords in a major key is really going to help you to understand where these chords are coming from and how to actually use them. So the first thing is, what does diatonic even mean? Diatonic is essentially your notes in a scale. So if I have the C major scale, I have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. All of those notes are diatonic because those are the notes that are unaltered in the key of C. And diatonic chords is when I build a chord using these notes in the scale. So let's start getting into it. So last week I talked about triads and how to build them. And there's a couple different formulas for building different kinds of triads. You have major triads, minor triads, augmented, and diminished. And major triads, the way you build it is you start with a note, you go up 4 semitones and go up another 3 from there. For minor, it's the opposite. You start with the root or whatever note it is that you're building the chord off of, you go up 3 semitones, then up 4. That gives you the perfect fifth either way, but with the minor chords, you just flat the third. So the third is a really important tonality in chords. So now that we know how to build triads, different kinds of triads, let's figure out where they actually fit. So I'm going to take the key of C, because there's no sharps or flats in the key of C. Now, if I were to take the root, the third, and the fifth of that scale, I'm going to get C, E, and G, because these are the notes that are in C major chord. So I have C, E, and G. Now, if I were to analyze those, you're going to see that you're going to get a root, a major third interval, which is 4 semitones, and then a perfect fifth. Okay, I'm actually going to start it down here, over at the 3rd fret. Okay, so let's go up to the second note of the scale. The second note of the scale is D, so if I built a triad or a chord off of the second scale degree, I'm going to get a minor chord. D, F, and A equals D minor. And those are using the diatonic notes in the key of C. Now if I start on the third, which is going to be E, you're going to get E, G, B. That's also a minor chord. So now we know our first chord in any major key signature is a major chord. Our second one is a minor. Our third is a minor. Let's go to the fourth. If F, A, and C. If I were to analyze that, you're going to get a major third interval and then a perfect fifth. So now we know that the fourth, building a chord off the 4th scale degree is going to be a major chord. Let's go up to the 5th. You're going to get G, B, and D. G, B, and D is a major chord. If I go up to the 6th of the scale, you're going to have A, C, E, which is going to be a minor chord. Now let's go up to the 7th. You're going to have B, D, and F, which is a diminished chord. So that's really important because you have a lot of majors and minors in your major key signatures, but the 7th is always going to be a diminished chord, no matter what. This rule is non-negotiable. It's never going to change no matter what key you're in. So the 7th is always going to be diminished, and then you go back to the root, which is going to be a major. So altogether, now I have this formula of chords that I can use, and I can use these to make chord progressions. So have you ever noticed that a lot of times you play C, and then maybe go to F, maybe G, sometimes A minor, back to C? That's one of the most basic chord progressions you are ever going to hear. It's a 1, 4, 5, 1, or something like that chord progression. Maybe a 1, a 4, a 5, I don't know, minor, 6th, and then back to 1. Okay, so that was one way to play that same chord progression down here, but let's say I took it up to the 8th fret and I play a C bar chord. Right? Kind of cool. That's the same chord progression. I played it in a different place on the neck, and it gives you a different feel because you are piecing the chords together differently, you're giving it different voicing. Sorry about the autofocus, by the way. The 4K autofocus really is trash on this camera, so I'm trying to get away with as little movement as possible, but that's impossible because I'm Italian. So this is actually the biggest thing that helped me when I was first learning all the different key signatures and which chords interacted with what. This is called the circle of fifths. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's basically just a circle that connects all of the different key signatures. And the way to actually read this is, let's say we start with C. If we go clockwise in the circle, you're gonna see G is the next key signature, and G has 1 sharp. So if you go clockwise, you're adding 1 sharp every time. This is really important because if I go up to the next fifth, right? If I go from C to G, G is actually my 5 chord in the key of C. So it's a usable chord, and it sounds pretty good. And if I go counterclockwise 1 notch, or whatever you want to call it, you're gonna see you have F, and F is the 4 chord in the key of C. So this is really useful because now you kind of know the 1, the 4, and the 5 of every single key signature. So if I start with A, I know that A is my 1 chord, key of A, right? If I want to go to the 4 chord, I know it's going to be D. Back to 1 chord, which is A. 5 chord, E. Back to A, and that's my 1 chord again. So let's read this a little bit differently now. Go to C. If you go on the inside of the circle, you're going to see that you have lowercase letters. That's because each major key has a corresponding minor, and they're called relative minors. What that means is that they actually share the same notes. So they're kind of used interchangeably. If I have if I have a C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And let's say I go to the relative minor, which is A. You'll see they actually share the same exact notes, they're just arranged in a different way. So that's a different mode of the C major scale. And there's all different kinds of modes, which we'll get into in, again, separate video. An important thing to note too, which is really, really cool, is that a C major chord and an A minor chord are actually kind of used interchangeably. So theoretically, if I were to have a chord progression where I have C, right, a 1, 4, 5, 1, or C, F, G, C, I could actually replace that C chord and replace it with an A minor. And it's gonna sound pretty good. It's gonna have the same tonal qualities. It's just going to be a little bit of a sadder sounding chord. It's gonna pull the music in a different direction. I'll give you an example, ready? Sounds really nice when you throw that A minor in there, and that's actually used a lot in modern pop. You could take that with any key signature too. Chord shapes, this is, oh my God, this is super, super important. One of the biggest things that opened up my understanding of the fretboard is the caged system. I'm gonna have a separate video on it, and I didn't make it yet, but it should be ready, so I'm gonna pretend like I made it already, and I'm gonna point to it. Watch this video. This is gonna help you out a lot. The caged system theoretically is just learning how to play one chord in 5 different ways on the neck. And it really opens up your mind to how to play these chords in different places and different chord progressions you can use now that you've figured out different shapes and how they all commingle with one another and how everything is connected and why music is awesome. So when you pick one chord progression, I want you to try to stick to one key signature for the most part when you're first starting, and then learn how to play those chords in different places on the neck. So for instance, I did this over here. I did C, F, C, G, C, and I even went to the A minor, which was at the 5th fret, and I can do that same thing down here. C, F, C, G, A minor, C, whatever. I can do the same thing up here. C, F, C, G, A minor, C. Just learn how to play them in different places is really gonna help you out a lot. So we learned how major and minor chords kind of work together for the most part. There's a lot of different ways you can use them, but let's talk about diminished chords, right? Because they have such a weird sound, right? Like you wonder what you're ever gonna use it for. This is gonna be a diminished 7th chord, but you're gonna get an idea. Diminished chords are really good passing chords. They create a really cool, like ominous sort of feel. This is a 7th, diminished 7th, but it's kind of the same thing. It almost sounds like in like a cartoon or something like that when the guy that you thought ended up being good ends up being bad. Like, What do you mean he killed Susie? I'm gonna give you a quick example. So I really hope that that helped, and if it did, please drop it a like, drop it a comment, because it would really help me out with the YouTube algorithm. Hit the subscribe button, because I'm going to be dropping new content every week, tutorials, lessons, demos, vlogs, stuff like that. So again, my name is John, and if you guys enjoyed, be sure to share it with somebody. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.